You know the type. Maybe you are the type. Someone asks a question in a meeting, and this person just shrugs, says, I have no idea, plays confused for a second too long, and then later drops a comment so sharp, so precisely observed that you realize they knew exactly what was going on the whole time. They just chose not to show it. We've been trained to think that intelligence is loud, that the smartest person in the room is the one talking the most, correcting people, showing their work. So when someone acts a little slow, a little clueless, a little, wait, what? We assume that's exactly what it is, genuine confusion. But sometimes what looks like fog is actually the clearest set of eyes in the building. And that gap between what a person shows and what a person sees is one of the strangest and most human things your brain can do. Let's start with a story, because this is easier to feel than to explain. Imagine a family dinner. Someone makes a passive-aggressive comment about how some people never help with the dishes. Everyone tenses. And then there's one person at the table, let's call her the quiet one, who just says, "Oh, were you talking about the dishes? I didn't notice," and goes back to her food. She noticed. She noticed everything. She clocked the tone, the target, the subtext, probably before anyone else at that table finished chewing. But she made a choice, in a fraction of a second, to not engage, to look a little dumber than she is on purpose, because it was safer than being sharp in that moment. This is where psychology gets interesting, because playing dumb isn't laziness, and it isn't actually about intelligence at all. It's a social strategy, and often a survival one. Psychologists who study impression management, a term coined by sociologist Irving Goffman, talk about how we're all constantly performing a version of ourselves, depending on the room we're in. Goffman compared social life to a theater, where every interaction is a kind of stage, and we adjust our performance based on the audience. Some people, especially those who grew up in households where being too smart got them punished, teased, or made a target, learned early that visibility is a liability. If you're the smartest kid in a chaotic house, sometimes the safest move isn't to shine, it's to disappear a little, to let people underestimate you, because underestimation means you're left alone. Think about it like camouflage. A chameleon doesn't change color because it's confused about what color it is. It changes because blending in keeps it alive. People who play dumb are doing something eerily similar. They're reading the temperature of a room and deciding that standing out right now isn't worth the risk. And here's the twist that makes this so psychologically rich. The very act of hiding what you know requires you to know it extremely well. You cannot successfully play dumb about something you haven't already fully understood. It's a strange kind of mastery disguised as absence. There's also something quieter going on underneath this, something almost tender if you sit with it. A lot of people who do this aren't performing out of manipulation. They're doing it out of exhaustion. Being the perceptive one in a room is heavy. If you're the person who always notices the tension nobody's naming, the lie beneath a polite sentence, the sadness behind someone's joke, that's a lot of emotional weight to carry every single day. Sometimes playing dumb isn't strategy, it's rest. It's saying silently, I see it, but I don't have the energy to be the one who deals with it right now. Psychologist Susan Nolan-Hoeksema's research on rumination shows how mentally costly it is to keep replaying and analyzing social information. People who are chronically perceptive often pay for it in anxiety and overthinking. So stepping back and acting like you didn't notice isn't dishonesty. Sometimes it's self-protection.
And then there's power. Because, let's be honest, there's something almost delicious about being underestimated. If people think you're not paying attention, they stop performing for you. They relax. They say the true thing instead of the polished thing, which means the person playing dumb often ends up with more real information than anyone else in the room, simply because nobody thought to filter themselves around them. History is full of this. Quiet observers in courts, in workplaces, and families who said little and somehow always knew everything, not because they were slow, but because everyone assumed they were and told them the truth by accident. So if this is you, if you've spent years nodding along, letting people think you missed things you absolutely caught, I want you to hear this gently. That's not a flaw, and it's not fakery. It's a form of emotional intelligence that most people never develop because most people are too busy needing to be seen as smart to actually watch. You learned how to read a room the way some people read a book. You learned that silence isn't the absence of thought, it's often thought with the volume turned down. And there's real strength in choosing when to speak instead of feeling compelled to prove yourself every single time someone tests you. Maybe the real shift isn't learning to stop noticing everything. It's learning that you don't have to hide it out of fear anymore, that there are rooms and people safe enough for you to finally say the sharp, true thing out loud. So here's my question for you. When was the last time you played dumb, and what were you actually protecting? Tell me in the comments. I'd genuinely like to know. And if this felt a little too accurate, stick around, because there's a lot more going on in that quiet brain of yours than you've been giving yourself credit for.